Hello. It's been a while. How you doing? Hey guys, it's MJ. Welcome back to the Chanel. It's been a while. I've been MIA. Not that anybody missed me, but here I am. I have a new passion, which is reading. So this is gonna turn into a booktube channel slash a channel about whatever the heck I want to talk about. And it just so happens that I'm in like a big mood to talk about books. So that's what we're gonna do. Yeah, we're just gonna talk about books. So if you're interested in books and you want to hear, I was gonna say see, if you want to hear what I read over the summer, then just keep on watching. I actually finished Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows when school ended. It's the last read that I had before starting something completely new and different. I finished the Harry Potter series. It was a very bittersweet moment. I think everyone who reads, well not everyone, but a lot of people who read have read the Harry Potter books. I've been obsessed with Harry Potter for a while. This book was amazing. My favorite book in the series was by far The Order of the Phoenix. I think that's the one that was overall just the one that I preferred, but obviously the Deathly Hallows is like the super important book, like the most important book, well debatably, in the series. So yeah, I finished Harry Potter. Yay me! Moving on to the next book that I read. It's super popular on Book Talk and BookTube. It had its moment, it's been having its moment for a while now, but I can understand why, and it is the Book of Achilles. This book, it was so good. It was so good. I rated this a 5-star on Goodreads. This book was so amazing. Madeline Miller makes you understand Greek mythology in such a dummy way. Like, she dumbs it down so much so that everybody can understand it. So like if you're intimidated by like Greek mythology, don't be. Madeline Miller is super good at just dosing it down. Also, the love story in this is beautiful. It's amazing. It's breathtaking. I actually was wondering how she was gonna end it, because if you know the ending of the Achilles story, you know the ending of the Achilles story, right? So I was wondering how she was gonna make it happen, because it's from Patroclus. I get it mixed up between the French and the English, but anyways, him. It's told from his point of view, right? So she did it beautifully. She describes things in such a beautiful way. She talks about like figs and olives and in the sea, and I'm like, I can smell it, dude. I can smell the figs. Bring them to me. Go get you some Achilles and Patroclus. I swear to you. I swear to you. The hype. There's a reason for the hype, baby boo. There's a reason. The next book that I read, if I'm correct, is Norwegian Woods by Haruki Murakami. Now Murakami is super famous and he's from Japan, I believe. Super famous Japanese author, and his books are like all translated and stuff. And I saw somewhere, I think it was Jack in the Books, he did a video about Harry Styles' books. Wait. Books that Harry Styles has read and recommended, I think. And this book was on there. And let me tell you, sweetie pie, whew, Murakami has a very beautiful way of writing, but a very particular and special way of writing, right? So this book, not much happens. Well, a lot happens, but at the same time, you finish reading it and you're like, what just happened? It's a book that deals with death and loss and confusion and inner struggle, and it's beautiful. It does have some trigger warnings though, so if you want to read it, you should check those out before you do. But this book was written beautifully and I recommend it. I gave it a 5-star. This writer's way of writing is beautiful. Beautiful, baby. Alright, so after Murakami, I did have some sort of book hangover. That book just kind of grabbed me and it wouldn't let go. So it took me a couple of days before I got over it, before I read something again. But when I did, I read Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. This is a love story. It's an LGBTQ2+ love story and it's amazing. It's so good. Again, the descriptions in this, amazing. So good. This ending is heartbreaking. They go to a big city in this book, and once that starts happening, it's like ethereal. It's beautiful. It's beautiful writing. And the imagery, and you feel like you're there, and I love books that do that. You kind of feel like you're there. Love that. And this book does that. So I gave this a 5-star too. Honestly, there's not much that I read this summer that I hated. We will get to that. But this I did not hate. This I loved. Speaking of books I didn't like, the next book that I read I did not hate, but it wasn't like a 5-star. I think I gave this a 3-star. And this is Summer Cannibals by Melanie Hobson. Now this I hadn't seen anywhere on Goodreads, or I hadn't seen anywhere on Book Talk, or well, I understand why. Not that it's bad, it just wants to do so many things and it ends up doing none of those things. So it half-asses everything it's trying to do because it's trying to do way too much. This book would have either needed to be like twice as long or need to have like half of the tropes in there, because this book was charged for its whooping, like, it's not even 300 pages. Although it was, if you're trying to read like a super weird family drama thing, this could be your gal. But again, she's special. I liked some aspects of it, like the dad in this book takes care of his garden like super intensely, and I loved that. I love that. It was like weird. He was like obsessed with the garden, and the mom hates the dad, and it's like their dynamic is like fun and weird, but she tried to do too much. Okay, so the next book that I have here is probably my, yeah, I think it's my favorite read so far. And it is The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali. This freaking book, dude, it is a book that happens in the span of a lifetime, right? And I'm really glad that she only told this book from one point of view, because it would have been a mess if she hadn't, because this book needed to be followed in a way that made sense. So I'm really glad that she really went with the only like one point of view. Still, this woman wrote the most beautiful love story. And I don't cry when I read books, and I didn't cry when I read this. But I almost cried. If I'm almost crying, you're doing something right, and Marjan Kamali did so many things right with this. Honestly, I don't even want to talk about this. I don't want to tell you a summary. I think that you should go in to this book so super blind. Read a short synopsis, like just to know what you're getting yourself into, or not even, like, just go into it blind. I swear you will not regret it. This book has so much to offer. I can never praise this book enough. And when I bought this, I was like, okay, whatever. No. No, no, no. This book is it. After I read The Stationery Shop, I had another book hangover because that book was so hard to top for me. It was so good, and it was like the most amazing thing I'd ever read in my freaking life, right? So I hadn't wanted to start anything, and so I brought a book to work, and I was like, okay, I'll just bring a book to work, and then, you know, I'll start it and we'll see. And that book was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. So like when I went into this, I was like, okay, like I like the concept, like you die, go in between realms and like get to try out lives. That sounds cool. So the concept like sounded pretty cool to me. And then I read the book and it didn't do it for me. I think there was so much more to do with the concept, and like he could have done something way cooler than this book. This book, it kind of just fell flat for me. You know, it was okay. I gave it a 3. I don't know, man, it was boring. I read it like super quick though, but I found it super boring. So after that super disappointing book, I was like in the mood to read something like a little bit more, I don't know, completely different than what I'd read. I was kind of getting in a slump. I felt like I was just reading like love story after love story after love story, and it was kind of getting a little bit boring. So I wanted a love story that was kind of unconventional and that would be different than everything I had just read, because I had just read so much. And so I saw a video on YouTube and someone was talking about this book, which is After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a story about divorce and what kind of happens when you're unsure and you kind of don't know if you fell out, like you kind of haven't fallen out of love, but you're kind of unsatisfied with your relationship. And so these two people give each other a year apart, completely apart, to kind of figure out where they're at. And thus, this book is born. If you're in the mood for like a love book that's completely different and like that talks about like family dynamics and stuff, but like different, she's your girl. After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Super good. The next book I read is an older book. It's not so much trending anymore, but I think it's an important book and I'm really glad that I read it. It had been on my shelf for like quite some time, like since Christmas, and I was like never in the mood to read it. I wasn't really in the mood, but I got in the mood really quick, let me tell you, and it is The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. Let me tell you something. Angie Thomas is really good at world building, because this book, I felt like I was in this world and I completely immersed myself in the story, which is ideally what you want from a book. And I was really able to really get into it, like really get into it. It follows Star, and Star is there when her friend gets shot by the police for no reason, and then everything that follows that, and all the rebounds that come from that incident. It is something that's super present in the world right now since the BLM movement kind of blew up last year. And I'm actually really super glad that there are stories like Stars that are out in the world, that even though it's fiction, it really isn't fiction. So you read a fictional character's story, but really it's like a community story, right? So I think this book is like super important to read for everyone. It's super engaging. The world building is great. It's super simple, but super effective. The next book I read, this is the dud. This is Of Women and Salt by Gabriela Garcia. Now this I thought I was going to adore because the synopsis brought me in was like about addiction and immigration, and I was like, okay, like I'm all in for this, sign me up, let's go. This book took me 2 weeks. It's a 200-page book. I think I still have 10 pages to read, honestly. It's a super short book. It should have taken me, I don't know, half a day, not even, like 4 hours to read. It took me over a week to read this thing. And I thought it was like me that was the problem. I'm like, ugh, I'm just not in the mood to read. No, this book was the problem, because I picked up a book after this one and I read fine. So I gave this book 2 stars on Goodreads, and I don't even know why I didn't give it like 1. And I don't know why I didn't DNF this thing. It was so boring. It was so boring. It was so boring. This did nothing for me, and it did nothing of what it promised to do. So read it or don't read it. I don't care. Okay, so I think the next book that I picked up after I picked that book up, well, actually after I put it down, goodbye, was The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Now listen, here's the thing with The House in the Cerulean Sea. It's a good book. It's a good book. I could not for the life of me immerse myself into the writing. I couldn't. I don't know why. It made me feel fuzzy. That's it. House in the Cerulean Sea follows Linus Baker, who is like a social worker basically, and he is called up to extremely upper management, and then he has to go to the house in the Cerulean Sea to kind of evaluate the kids that are there. Yeah, it's LGBTQ cute friendly. You know, it's super cute, and I don't know, it's fuzzy. It makes you feel like fuzzy inside. Like that's how it made me feel. But I couldn't like completely immerse myself into the writing for some reason. There was something that was just not up my alley enough that made me like really dive in. But I think I'm one of the rare ones, because I think everybody just freaking loves this book. With good reason. So yeah. A book that I read recently is House of Hollow. House of Hollow, man. This one too took me a while to read, because I think it was very different from anything I'd ever read and anything I ever expected to read. So it's the tale of 3 sisters who disappear when they are super young and then reappear a month later. And then when they're older, their sister disappears again, and then they try to kind of figure out what's going on, why they keep disappearing, and where they try to find their sister, essentially. And some weird shit ensues. So this book was so weird. It was so weird, but it was so good. But it was so weird. I really couldn't see what was going on in this book and what was about to happen, and the big reveal at the end of this book I saw coming, which sucks a little bit. I kind of wish it like threw me off balance and caught me off guard. It didn't. I'm just smart like that. Honestly, the first 150 pages read super easily for me, and then the middle of the book kind of point, and then it like went up the last like, I don't know, 70, 60 pages. So it kind of has like, for me at least, it kind of had like a little dip in the middle. Can't really say much more about this book without spoiling it, and this is gonna be like a spoiler-free video. So that's all I can say about this, but worth a read. This was super good. The cover art, like, let me just look at this. So beautiful. So beautiful. So good. I think it's worth the read. All right, and then we are almost done, I swear. I read this book 2 weeks ago. It is Normal People by Sally Rooney. Sally Rooney, I wasn't expecting her writing style, because she has a really particular way of writing. I'm not mad at it, but it's particular. She doesn't put these not commas, but these around the dialogue, which it threw me off a little bit at the beginning. Then I was fine. This book, it was good. Just nothing happens. I felt like nothing happened in this book, and I don't think that the point was for a lot of things to happen. I think that the point is just to see kind of human nature, human emotions and evolution and all of that. I think that's the point. It's beautiful. The writing is beautiful. It's a gorgeous book, but nothing happens in this book. But it's still worth the read, I think. I'm really glad that I read this. It's just nothing happens. Okay, I have 2 books left on this list, and then I'm done. I promise. I think I blah-blahed for long enough. I read You Had Me at Hola. Now this book is literally a telenovela in a book. That's all it is. It's a telenovela. Like, it's super good. It's cute. It's a cute book. She's cute. It's easy to read. It goes really fast. The smut is cute. The love is cute. And it's classic love story. Like, oh, we can't date, but we're gonna date anyway. We're gonna have sex. And then shit's gonna hit the fan and we're gonna be mad at each other, but we're gonna finish together. This book. If you're in the mood for just some chick flick telenovela, why am I saying it in like this weird accent? In like a telenovela, then this is your book. And then last but not least, this book and the one I just talked about. Stationery Shop. Those are my 2 favorites that I read this summer. This book was gorgeous. Gorgeous. It was amazing. This is like above a 5-star for me. And it is Songs in Ursa Major. Obviously, I love music. I love things that are set in the 70s, 80s. This book, it really was, and it was sold to me as something that was kind of like A Star is Born, but obviously not exactly like A Star is Born, you know. But that's kind of how it had been kind of sold to me when I was listening to a podcast. And I don't know, it's about music and music production, and just, it's a love story, but not really. And it's just, it's a band, and then it's Emma Brody, man, she did that. She did that. I think this is her first book. I think this is her first, it's her debut novel. Girl. Emma Brody, you did this. You did this. I go into books pretty much blind all the time. I read a little blurb and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that sounds like something I'd like. And then I go about my day, and it works out. I loved this book. Alright, so that is going to be it for today's video, guys. Hopefully you like the new direction this channel is taking. I mean, 46 subscribers, so I can pretty much do what I want, right? I do things that make me happy. And honestly, I think I literally view my own videos, like half of the views are like me. So it doesn't really matter anyway. Just, I want to talk about books because like, it's like this passion that's burning inside of me, and I need to talk about it. And so hopefully like the book community is gonna be like, hey, like, come talk about it with us. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed me splattering about books, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.